all four wines are made from grapes.
Okay.
I love when that happens. Because look what happened to
Because
us
the
with the
first
first
bite.
wine. Exactly.
The whole goal behind this tasting is to look at very good wines in terms of place and also discerning quality level. So we have two paired wines. Each pair comes from a single producer and made of similar grapes.
Similar grapes. Okay.
And so you have these two pairs of wines coming from different parts of the world, and you've got to figure out what each pair is, right? So these are random. We won't know what the order is. And then within each pair,
Which is the better wine?
which is the better wine and why?
Oh, wait. Not necessarily which is the better, which is the baby and which is the big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, early on, the baby wine sometimes can taste better than the tighter big boy, but not necessarily.
And the tighter big girl. What you laughing about? I had this discussion this morning with a friend of mine while we were walking in the context of Barolo and Nebbiolo d'Alba.
So Peter, we're going to pass them in order.
Yeah.
Get number one, grab it, pour it, pass it. Dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
That's ultimately what I want to do learn from the tasting, how to tell the quality. If you're drinking $200 bottle of wine, I want to know why it's
better.
Yeah, why it's better.
If you're drinking a $200 bottle of wine, it's because your wallet is either full or has recently been emptied.
You guys have been listening into my conversations lately. It's one of the things I talk about a lot.
I see.
And that's why I believe if you're going to taste Screaming Eagle,
Right?
only the very rich in the world can afford to open a bottle of Screaming Eagle and nothing else. Because when you're paying $2,000 to $3,000 for a bottle of wine, you need to compare it with others to see whether it's worth the damn money.
Exactly.
Ideally, everything would be from the same vintage. We were limited as to what was available in the shop.
Okay.
Two of them I found that has more oak, so I put them as the big boys.
Oh, you did?
That's the way
That's usually true.
Right, I don't know.
Okay, so we tasted through the wines, and all the wines were pretty long in their finishes, which made it difficult because that flavor and those characteristics of given wine stayed in your palate a long period of time. And we're talking about preferences, how Peter has preference for some Italian varieties.
That's not fair though. My preference should
Right.
be avoided in a blind tasting.
Right. So in a blind tasting, you're basically looking for quality first, and then what the varieties are, and possibly where it's from. But they are enmeshed.
Absolutely.
Were there any single variety wines here, or are they all blends, or a mixed bag?
Certainly for me, there were definitely blends in here. Whether there were one or two 100%, I don't think so. I don't think so.
And you're right.
Yeah,
So they're all blended wines.
yeah,
You don't have a single variety popping out at you saying,
yeah.
this is, if you're doing a white wine tasting, this is Chardonnay or this is Riesling. That wasn't the case. And they were of different ages,
Yes, they were.
which made it more difficult. So what are the pairs?
1 and 3, 2 and 4.
I got the same 1 and 3, 2 and 4.
Same for me as well.
Okay, so let's do by pairs. 1 and 3. Which one's the primary one? Which one's the second one? And where are they from?
In the beginning, I thought that 3 was the better wine, but now I'm not sure.
Yeah, I got 3 is the big boy and number 1 is the...
Yeah, I'm not sure now.
I thought the other way. I thought number 1 is a bigger guy, and then number 3 was the second.
Number 1 is incredibly long. You take a sip of it, it's still on my palate. It goes on and on and on. 3 is a damn good wine.
They're both very good wines. I scored number 1 down in the beginning because it was very astringent, but I'm loving it now.
Yeah.
I think I'm preferring its elegance and complexity to number 3, which I definitely scored higher in the beginning.
Which again is this argument that your first glance when you're tasting wines blind or evaluating them, and, even under a trade circumstance, sometimes your first taste is not the most accurate one, because if it's a wine that is really meant to age and has lots of stuff going on in it, sometimes those wines are tighter early on and they need some time to open up in the glass.
I like number 1 better than number 3, but I think number 3 is the big boy, just because I think they put more new oak and I think the number 3 has more oak.
Shall we see number 1?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't think,
Or
where
do
were
you
they
think it was
from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's a real problem. Okay. I thought the Rhone can play here, but southern Rhone, not northern Rhone. And Spain, Rioja or Ribera. And I really didn't know where to go with that. In the end, I went for a Rhone and a Chateauneuf.
I'm with you. I thought it was a GSM, so Chateauneuf de Pape, number 1, and I thought they both were GSM. So
Number 1, Chateau de Beaucastel, Chateauneuf du Pape, 2021 vintage. Alcohol 14.5, aged in oak vat for 1 year. 30% Grenache, 30% Mourvedre, 15% Syrah.
It's one of the great values
Oh, yes.
in wine, in my mind, the Coudelet, which is sort of across the street from Beaucastel and not in Chateauneuf de Pape, and that's the Côte d'Aron. And the Coudelet cost $25, $28, $30, something. So the big difference is that the Chateauneuf de Pape has a good amount of Counoise, and then has lots of other little things as well.
So 13 grapes in there.
But it's easy to get fooled to think, because, this one's got more color and more grip, therefore it's the big boy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I was in the beginning, and then I went back and I tasted them and said, this is a better one. For me, elegance, complexity. Awesome. Next. So now we know it's 2 and 4.
Yep, 2 and 4.
Ribera del Duero, so Spain. I don't think it is, but it smells like a coconut.
It has, both these wines are oaked. As they say here in America, that ain't American oak. It's not
So
coconut.
to me, these are Bordeaux wines. Really, really interesting wines. I love the character of number 4, but looking at the ages, where number 2 is much older than number 4, but I don't like this, and I love this. This one, to me, feels like it's drying out. It's super tannic now. It's short. I'm trying to figure out if it's prematurely aged or whether it really is 212, 213, which is what it looks like to me. Probably not, so maybe 17 or 18 or something like that, I don't know. But this, I really like.
I thought number 4 was the big boy, and then number 2 was their second.
I hope you're right.
So you're in Bordeaux. Where in Bordeaux?
So they're almost 4 square.
For the British Anglophones out there, describe Foursquare.
So 4 square is like plodding, to the extent that Bordeaux is plodding, pedestrian. If you have a look at the top areas in Bordeaux, this ain't Margaux. So then what would it be? Saint-Julien, Saint-Estèphe, Pauillac. The one that's always considered to be 4 square is Saint-Estèphe. Saint-Julien, usually more charming. Pauillac's got everything. One can't really tell. Why don't I just go with Saint-Estèphe?
But you're easily faked out, because this wine has a good amount of Cabernet Sauvignon, atypical for its appellation. So these are both from Saint-Emilion.
Okay.
But the grape with the highest percentage is Cabernet Sauvignon,
Oh, really?
which is highly atypical.
So
you
Saint-Emilion with the greatest amount of Cabernet is enlightened.
Figeac.
Exactly.
Let's open up the wines and see which one is
Okay,
which.
with number 2 first, Petit Figeac,
What's the vintage?
2019.
It's prematurely aged.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. What's the price?
55.
55.
Number
Very
4
good.
is Chateau Figeac, 2021. Premier Grand Cru Class A. And And then 2021 is the first vintage for them to use their new winery. This one was $220.
Wow. Very expensive, but it's a gorgeous wine.
But 21 was in general pretty bad for most of the Bordeaux
Not
makers,
that good.
right?
But guess what? Go to Tuscany. Go to Piedmont, to Barolo, Barbaresco. Go to the Mosel. Now 2021 is... One of the reasons why I so love the top wineries in Piedmont that make Nebbiolo d'Alba, because they treat their grapes with the same respect, but the grapes cannot earn the appellation. And so instead of paying 55, you pay 19.
Right.
Same thing in Burgundy. The producer sometimes matters more than the appellation.
I think almost inevitably.
Right. And so top quality producers in Burgundy sometimes get top dollar for much lesser appellations because they are really good at what they do. And they're good at growing the grapes, making the wine. I mean, here I believe the Coudelet is outside of the Châteauneuf du Pape appellation. Therefore it gets the Côte d'Aron. It's one of my favorite Côte d'Arons.
I agree. This is a beautiful wine. I want to add something to what you just said about Burgundy. It's not so much about the top producers, to me. It's about your average producer in Burgundy is really bad. I cannot believe, and I can't think of any other region in the entire world where the average standard of winemaking on such unbelievably expensive land is so bad.
And in part, you have a really small area of land that's been divided up and divided up and divided up. And so you have a lot of variability in terms, as you said, in terms of grape growing and winemaking. Though when it's done exceptionally well, among the greatest wines in the world.
Absolutely. Everybody wants great Burgundy. It's theirs to lose, and they lose it.
Some do. Well, also, it's a place where the climate has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And so the Burgundy's producing wines today, in terms of ripeness levels, that are more similar to California 25, 30 years ago.
If I get an agreement, I have this strong feeling about how Burgundy should be done. It's very arrogant of me, but I will do it this vintage with Steinmetz in Mosel. And I will do it from here. I might go there at harvest, but other than that, I will tell him, do this, do that, do the other, and I will take all the responsibility.
Though I think to optimally make wine, you need boots on the ground. You need to see the vintage, get a feel for the vintage, taste the grapes, and as a function of that, make the wine. But you're right, that if you take a advantage of a Pinot Noir producer in making Spätburgunder in the Mosel, you're going to have a different product than somebody who's a Riesling producer who's making Spätburgunder, making Pinot.
So that's why I say I would go there for the vintage. So I would pick the grapes or be involved in picking the grapes, have a look at what we've got, look at the analyses, do a shitload of reading up about how you deal with this analysis and that analysis, this ratio between acidity and sugar, and this. Make some decisions, give him some instructions, and go home. We'll see. And you're going to make 100 cases, no one dies.
Yeah. And in making Pinot, there are parts of the world that get it, and parts of the world where they can actually make some beautiful Pinot fruit. It needs a gentle hand. It needs a gentle hand in terms of extraction, and a gentle hand in terms of oak use, or not.
It needs a gentle mind.
Yeah.
Exactly what you were saying earlier. It needs you to understand the ethos of Pinot Noir. And we who have been searching for the holy grail of wine most of our adult lives, we know when these guys are full of shit.
If you look at the Beaucastel, it's said that it spends time in oak vessels, oak is not what I'm getting here. I'm getting primary and secondary fruit characteristics. And in many parts of the world, including this part of the world that we're sitting in, there are producers that would take the same for Chateauneuf du Pape. This is relatively delicate fruit.
Absolutely.
And now if you were to put this in toasty oak barrels, and certainly if you harvested it later, you'd wind up with some oak balm that was unrecognizable basically as where it's from. Whereas here you can tell where it's from.
I lambaste these guys all the time. I've said to some of the guys I work with, you are blessed with poverty. They say, what do you mean? So because if you had more money, you would have bought more new barrels, completely fucked the wine up.
No.
So,
One of the beautiful things about my adventure in wine, which is still ongoing, are the wonderful people that I've met. And again, characters that you met, people from all different walks of life, and wines of varying quality, but often tasted in a celebratory way. You know, particularly if you're visiting a place or a winery and they're showing some of their best wines and you're having them with regional food. Life doesn't get much better than that.
so I got a lot of these tastings around the world. Some of the major wine shows, some of the lesser wine shows. And the guys that get to me are the passionate guys.
Yeah.
I brought back from Spain, from this particular winery called Capsanes. He makes all sorts of wines, including an excellent cava. But he has 4 garnachas from different terroirs on the farm, because he cares that much. Each one of them is a beautiful wine.
But in a different way.
He wants them, he feels that they are different enough to keep apart. Very definitely, 1 or 2 are better than the others. But there's the passion to do all of this. So I said to the guy, well, don't you have one Grand Vin that's a blend, an assemblage of it? He doesn't. He doesn't think that the assemblage will actually improve as much as it will detract from the terroir.
Which is sometimes the case and sometimes not the case, right?
Absolutely.
Right. We've done, Peter and I've tasted together a jillion times, right?
A jillion and a half.
Jillion and a half times. And sometimes what I've done after a tasting, or what you did earlier with the Riesling, is that I make a cuvée up, and sometimes the cuvée from different parts of the world winds up being the best wine.
It hasn't happened to me yet, but by that time I'm too drunk.
Should we sum up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had a beautiful tasting of basically Chateau Figeac from Saint-Emilion, atypical in that it has a lot of Cabernet Sauvignon in it, and therefore easily mistaken for a left bank wine. And we tasted the surprisingly older second wine and the first wine. And then we had 2 of my favorite wines as a pairing. The Beaucastel, that costs about $100, which I think is a bargain for the quality, and the Coudelet for $30, I think is a bargain as well.
Really good tasting. Well chosen, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next time it's your turn, Peter, to choose.
Hell no.
No, it's pretty close by where you live.
Cheers.
I mean, I'm happy to choose, but the trouble is I'm a really selfish guy. I want you to choose so that I can have the learning experience that I just had.
Okay, then I'll choose.
Because this is a beautiful learning experience.
Why did I pass? Why did I so